everyone. Happy Tuesday and welcome to our 60-minute yoga practice. I'm in a different room today because I have a new foster dog and he is kind of confined to the area where I normally do my yoga practice in the sunroom. So we got some artificial light in here. It's not as pretty as the sunroom, but we're going to make it work. Today's practice, as I mentioned, 60 minutes, and we are going to be so hip today because it is another chakra, and it's the sacral chakra. So it's all about the hips. So we're going to be doing a lot of poses that work the strength of the hips, the mobility, and the stretching of the hips. So the sacral chakra, we did a root chakra a couple weeks ago. So think about going up the spine. It's about 2 to 3 inches below the navel. Again, a chakra is like a wheel of spinning energy, and the color of this one is orange. And like the root chakra had its own element of earth, this one is water. So in the root chakra, we were grounded and secure, and now we're more flowing. So we're going into a lot of flowing poses and a lot for the hips. If you need props today, we're going to have a block and a knee pad available to us, but those are both optional. If you don't have a knee pad, you could use a rolled up towel, and you could also not even go onto your knee. It's for lizard pose. So I'll show it with the knee lifted up, so you don't even have to come down onto your knee. And then the block, we'll use that for a low squat, supported bridge as well. You could use a book, or again, you don't have to use anything. You could let your hips be directly on the mat in supported bridge. Let's get started with a hand gesture. Today's hand gesture represents the word womb, because that's the area of the body that we're talking about for a woman anyway. So create that heart shape with your hands, knuckles together, thumbs together, but then take your index fingers up. And that's our womb hand gesture. Think about the womb being the source of life. And now take those hands, give them a shake, and we'll go into our warm-up. I'm backing up so you can see me head to toe. And we'll start with that number 11 of our feet, going into elongation. Inhale, stretch up and release. Go at your own pace here. If you want, bend the knees into it, getting a little motion already through those hips. Do one more, and release, standing cat and cow. Exhale, round your back, hug a giant tree, tuck the chin, and then inhale, reverse the curve, pinch the shoulder blades together. Go at your own pace. Same thing, creating that motion through the spine. One more. And stand tall. We're going to go into lateral flexion, and we're going to use a windmill pose today. So step a little bit wider. Feet are a little bit wider than your hips. Soft knees, don't lock out your knees. Right arm up, left arm down. And now start to tilt the body as you switch the arms, making a big windmill motion. So we're getting a little shoulder mobility as well through this lateral flexion. Don't lean forward, just lean to the side, as if you're trying to bring your rib cage closer to your hip bone. One more each side. And then release. Going into rotation here, you can leave your feet a little bit wide as they already are. Arms to a T, shoulders relaxed. And in fact, let's make them cactus arms, because if I have T arms, I'm probably going to hit the closet door behind me. So we can do this with cactus arms. Inhale, center. Exhale, rotate to the right and center. Exhale, rotate to the left and center. Go at your own pace. Keep your hips stationary. We're rotating at the connection between the spine and the hips. Let's do one more each side. And release. Roll those shoulders back and down. Let's go into some hip circles, making sure those hips are really warmed up with a lot of mobility. Hands on the hips, shoulders relaxed. Doesn't matter which direction you start. Just start moving those hips around, bending into the knees. Make it as serpentine as you like. Pause and go the other way. Pause and return to center. Relax the arms. Come back into your number 11. We're going to do one more hip warm up here. This is a little hip opening. We'll do it 3 times on each side. The first time we'll do it with a kickstand, and the second and the third time we'll do it as a balance move. If this is too early in the practice to start your balance, you can do it with a kickstand all 3 times. Hands on the hips, shoulders relaxed. Bear the weight on your right. Let your left heel become light and tap the toe forward. And now open it up to the side. Return it to the center point and release. And now if you want, you can do it the same way, using your big toe as a kickstand. Or bend that knee, lift the foot, forward, side, down, and release. One more time on this leg. Lifting the knee forward, side, down, and release. All right, second leg, and we'll do the kickstand version on the first one. Keep those shoulders relaxed. Bear the weight on the left. Let your right heel become light. Tap the big toe forward, out to the side, external rotation, back to center and release. And now again, you can keep that kickstand or join me in the balance, letting the heel float, and then bring the knee up, forward, open to the side, release down. Last time, lifting the knee forward and side, down, and release. Walk it out. All right, we're going to do a little strength sequence for the hips here, incorporating some poses like Goddess and Warrior 2 and Reverse Warrior 2. So let's step wide in our Goddess pose. Heels in, toes out, external rotation. Before we go into Goddess, if you have a wall available to you or a closet door like this, go ahead and back up against your door. Keep your external rotation and let your bottoms touch your door. And then let your shoulder blades touch the door. Sink into your Goddess squat, bending the knees. You don't have to go very low here. And bring your arms to cactus. And now try not to fall into the door. Bear the weight through the heels, through the balls of the feet. And see how it almost feels like you want to fall backwards into the door. And now rise up and walk away from the door. That's the sensation, the erectness that you want to feel in your Goddess when you're not against that wall or door. So we're going to go into that Goddess pose away from the wall and see if we can maintain that erect spine. So come into your external rotation, heels in, toes out. Imagine the wall or door behind you and slide down the wall. Feel your shoulder blades still touching the wall. Come into cactus arms. Beautiful. Let's rise up 4 times. Inhale and exhale. Slide down the wall. Inhale and exhale. Twice more. Inhale, exhale. Last one. Inhale and exhale. Hands to the hips. Take your left foot, kick out the heel so the foot is parallel to the skinny end of the mat. Take your right knee, open the knee and the toes off to the right, keeping that knee over the second toe. Engage those muscles. Don't grab the mat with your toes. Wiggle your toes. Now throw that left shoulder back and extend out into a T. Stack your shoulders right over your hips. So don't lean into that right knee. Keep it upright. Feel the energy through the core of your body. We're going to transition to Reverse Warrior 4 times. Left hand down, right hand up, stretch. And return to your T. Second time. And Warrior 2. Reverse it. And Warrior 2. One more time. Reverse. And Warrior 2. Relax the arms. We're going to go into intense side stretch. A pose that is going to stretch through the pelvis and also through that right leg. So turn towards that right knee. Straighten the front knee. So now both legs are straight. Hinge from the hips and place your hands on your thigh. This is your starting point. You can stay here. And even when we do the chest sway, you can do it from here by swaying your chest away from your screen. If you can, bring those hands below the knee, not on the knee. Never stop on the knee. You can either be below or above. If you can, take it one step down to the mat. Fingertips make little teepees on the mat. Bow your head. Look at that left foot behind you. Intense side stretch. Breathe. And now we're going to add that chest sway. Just move your chest an inch away from the screen and then back over that right leg. 3 more times. Sway to the right, return, little sway, return, last one, a little sway, and return. Bend that front knee. Walk your hands back to the front as you turn your right foot on a diagonal and then turn your left foot on a diagonal. Lower your hips and hands come onto your thighs and come into a flat back here. Wide forward fold. If it's accessible, lower the hands below the knees to your shins. And once again, if it's accessible, bring the hands all the way to the floor. Look between your legs, bow your head. Standing forward fold. A deep stretch for those hips. Soften the knees, add a little sway, hip mobility. Center, hands to your thighs, and rise all the way up. Walk your feet together. Give those thighs a break, prance it out. And we're going to do that same sequence on the other side. So step wide in your goddess pose again. Heels in, toes out. Remember that sensation of the wall or the door right behind you. Arms come into cactus arms. Draw your shoulder blades into your back pockets 4 times. Slide down the wall, imaginary wall. Lift back up. 2nd time. Sliding down. Inhale, lift up. Twice more. And lift. Last one. Hands to your hips. And now we're going to kick out that right heel, straightening the right knee, and turn your left toes and your left knee off to the left. Make sure the knee is going over the toes, engaging those thigh muscles to keep it from flopping in. We don't want to put tension on the knee by letting it twist inwards. Throw your right shoulder back, extend the arms into a T, stack your shoulders right over those hips. Remember, don't lean into that bent knee. This is a no-no. Draw those shoulders back. Wiggle your toes. Don't grab the mat with your toes. And we'll reverse our warrior 4 times. Right hand down, left hand up. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, T. 2nd time, inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Make it big. And release. 1 more time. Inhale. And exhale. Release your arms. Turn your upper body to look over that left knee and straighten the left knee. We're going into our intense side stretch, also called pyramid pose. So looking off towards the left, place your hands on the thigh and just fold from the hips. Feel that deeper stretch on the left hip and left outer thigh. If you want to take it down below the knee, remember never stopping at the knee, you can come onto the shin. If it's accessible, bring those hands all the way down to the earth. If you had 2 blocks, you could also use 2 blocks here. Another option. Wherever you are, and I'm going to jump back up to the thigh here, just to show you, you can do this little sway motion even if your hands are higher. Relax the shoulders, bow the head, and look at that right foot behind you, and sway the chest to the left, and then return center. Second one I'm going to show from the shin. Sway the chest to the left and center. The last 2 I'm going to show from the mat. Sway the chest to the left, return over the leg. 1 more time. Sway the chest to the left, return over the leg. Bend that left leg. Walk your hands back around to the long edge of your mat as you turn your left foot on a diagonal, and then turn your right foot on a diagonal, bending the right knee. Both knees are bent. Hands come to the thighs. Keep your body folded as you place your body into that letter L, flat back position. We start up here so you have somewhere to go if you want to grow the pose, but you can stay here. Or you can come down to your shins, or you can place the hands on the earth. Or again, you could use a block here too. You pick. Bow your head. Relax the back of the neck. Breathe. One more breath cycle. Bend the knees. Hands come to the thighs, or they can stay on the earth as you sway those hips back and forth. A little motion again. Come back to center. Hands to the thighs if they're not already there, and rise up out of that pose. Walk your feet together. Good work, my friends. We have one set of standing poses left, and then we're going to be going to the mat and doing a lot of hip poses on the mat. So more seated and on the mat poses today than versus standing, so a shorter standing sequence. But our last standing sequence is about hip mobility, and it does incorporate balance. So we're going to start with the kickstand like we did in our warm-up pose, and then we'll progress into the balanced version. We'll do each side 3 times. So let's start with your hands on your hips, shoulders relaxed, bear the weight on the left foot, and bring that big toe forward. This time it's a straight leg. And now take that big toe out to the left side, straight leg. And now take that big toe across the body. And now take that big toe behind the body. Return to center. Now you can do the next 2 versions of that with the big toe kickstand. Or you can join me in lifting those legs and each time pausing at the center position to maintain your balance, or to resume your balance, I should say. So find your balance on that right leg. Let your left foot become light. Float it forward and tap. Out to the left and tap. Across the body and tap. Behind the body and tap. All right, last one. This time, if you want to take it one more step in the progression, eliminate the center taps. So you'll be swinging that leg to the 4 positions without tapping in between. If you need to tap at any point in time, go ahead and tap. Don't fall over. By all means, find your balance. Bear the weight on the right. Float that left foot and come forward and side, across the body, behind the body, and release. Prance it out. All right, same thing, opposite side. Will work as a progression, starting with the kickstand version. Your hands could be behind your body like mine are, or they could be on the hips, or they could even hang loose. So whatever helps you roll those shoulders back. I find that if I put my hands behind my body, it's a lot easier to remember to keep those shoulders rolled back and that upright posture. All right, here we go. Bear the weight on your left leg. Let your right heel become light, and that right big toe taps forward, straight leg. And now tap it out to the right. Tap it across the body, and now behind the body. Return to center. Now we'll do it as a floating foot, but we'll add that center tap on each one. Tall spine, bear the weight on the left, let your right heel become light, float the foot and forward lift and tap, side lift and tap, across the body lift and tap, behind the body lift and tap, release. Last time coming up. And if you want that final progression, take away the center tap and move the leg to the 4 positions without the center tap. Tall spine, bear the weight on the left, let your right heel become light, float the foot, center kick, side lift, across the body, behind the body, and release. March it out. We're going to have a seat. I'm going to move the device down to the floor, so you can have a closer view of me seated on the floor. And you can do the same, meeting me on the mat in a seated position. Extend your legs forward when you're seated on the mat. Move the fleshy part of your bottoms away from your sits bones, ground into the mat, and we are going to go into our cradle pose. We're going to assess our range of motion in cradle, and then we'll do a bunch of stretches, and somewhere in the middle, we'll do that cradle pose again and see if it feels any different. So let's start by doing cradle on both legs. Draw your right foot in, pick up your right foot with your left hand, and we've already done some mobility, so maybe this already feels like you can get it kind of close to the body, or maybe not. So my foot is still pretty far away from my body, and I'm not going to go into the deeper version of the pose yet. If you feel flexible and bendy, you can, and that would be to take the foot into the crook of the left elbow. Make sure if you do that, that you don't start to hunch forward like this. If you do, then you're not ready. You're not quite stretched out. So I'm going to stay here with the hand connected to the foot and gently create that cradle motion, that rocking motion. Getting a baby stretch to that right hip. Pause, extend that leg out, and we'll do the same thing on the left leg so we can assess both legs here. Pick up your left foot with your right hand. And this one feels a little closer. We're never totally symmetrical. Relax the shoulders, tall spine, gently rock. Pause the motion and send that foot forward. All right, we are going to go into our seated stretches here for the hips, starting with half shoelace pose. So draw the right foot in. We're going to do all the right hip poses, and then we'll do that right cradle again. So we're going into half shoelace, so step it over and take the outside edge of the foot down to the mat. The knee lowers away from the body, and now we internally rotate. Create that round back, that C shape, cradling that right knee with both arms. And let's start from the top of the spine and work down so we end up at the hips. Remember that sacral chakra. Think about the color orange. Tuck your chin. Separate the shoulder blades and lower the body. And let's hold this for 3 breath cycles here. Focus on the hip area. Imagine that spinning wheel of orange energy. 1 more breath cycle. And lift up out of the pose. Going into head to knee pose. Bring that foot back across and tuck the foot against your straight left leg. Now my knee on this side is floating because I have a tighter hip on this side. Remember, we're never totally symmetrical. If this is uncomfortable for it to float, you could always tuck a yoga block or even a rolled up towel underneath that knee if that feels better for you. So go ahead and take that option if you like, or let it float. Bring your hands below the left knee, draw the elbows down, and ease your nose towards your toes, folding from the hips. Shoulders are pulled away from the ears by dropping those elbows down. If you'd like, bow your head. Deep breath cycles here. Think about the stretch in that right hip, right low back, and right outer thigh. If you can, draw those hands just an inch closer to the ankle. Keep your head bowed and relaxed. Breathe. We're going to deepen the stretch through that low back area where that QL muscle is located by adding a rotation. Keep your left hand where it is. Take your right arm as if you were hugging someone right in front of you. And now start to lift that elbow up. Now, if you have shoulder issues, you may go only this far, and that's okay. You're still adding that little rotation. If you can go higher, go ahead and lift that elbow up above your head, getting a deeper opening. Your chest is opened off to the right, and we're deepening the stretch through that low back muscle. 1 more breath cycle. And now bring that right hand back down to the left leg. Bow the body and elevate the chest back up so that we can go into our figure 4 stretch. Pick up that ankle, set it on top of the left thigh. Bring your hands behind you so you can slightly recline and then bend your left knee. Set up the stretch for your body. That foot can be closer to your screen or it could be closer to your hips. We're going to add a little rocking motion here, pushing that right foot towards the left, deepening the stretch on that right hip. Deep muscles there, gluteus medius, piriformis. Again, visualize that spinning wheel of energy, that orange wheel of energy, 2 to 3 inches below the navel. Pause that motion and extend that left leg forward. Keep your right knee bent because here's where we're going to go back into the cradle just on the right leg. Pick up that right foot with your left hand. And wow, I can already see that my leg can come a lot closer to my body. Shoulders relaxed. If you want to try the deeper expression of the pose, take the foot into the crook of the left elbow. Remember, remain tall and erect with your spine. If you can't, then stay connected to the hand. Add that little rocking motion, very small. Pause and send that leg back out. Shake out the knees. We'll do that sequence on the other side, and then we're going to add some more stretches for the hip. So let's start with half shoelace. Draw that left foot in, step it across, and bring the outside edge of the foot down to the earth. Internally rotate, cradle that leg with both arms, starting from the top of the spine so we end up down at the sacrum. Tuck your chin, make the C shape, and then lower the chest towards that left leg. Take several breath cycles here. Really ease into that stretch. If you can, bring the chest just a half an inch closer to that left leg. One more breath cycle. And lift up out of the pose. We're going to go into head to knee pose. So bring that foot back across and tuck it to the inside. And notice here how now my knee does touch. So like I said, we're never totally symmetrical. So this side, my hip is much looser and my knee can just automatically touch. But if yours doesn't, remember that option. You can tuck something under the knee, a yoga block or even a rolled up towel. Look towards that extended leg. Bring your hands below the knee. And then draw the elbows down. Keep those shoulders away from your ears. Shift those noses towards the toes. Bow your head if you like, but keep reaching long with the spine, making space between the vertebrae. Folding from the hips, feeling the stretch in the left hip, left low back, and left outer thigh. Again, let's take 3 breath cycles here, staying in the pose, several breath cycles to try and enhance our stretch. And on this last breath cycle, if you can, walk the hands just an inch closer to the ankle. And then we're going to add the rotation. So keep your right hand where it is, bring your left arm in front of you like you're hugging someone, and then start to elevate the elbow. Fingers are pointing down, elbows pointing up. Remember, if you have to stop part way for your shoulder, go ahead and stop. But if you can, bring that elbow all the way up. Really feel the opening in the chest as you look off towards the left. Twisting the spine, creating that stretch on that diagonal muscle, the QL, quadratus lumborum. One more breath cycle. And bring that left hand back down to the right leg. Take one more breath cycle here in head to knee pose. And lift the chest back up so that we can go into our figure 4 stretch. Pick up that left ankle, set it on top of the right thigh. Bring your hands behind you, recline slightly, and now bend the right knee. If you want, set it up for less intensity, or if it's accessible to you, set it up for more intensity. We're going to add that rocking motion, pushing the left foot towards the right, just an inch to 2 inches, not very far. Just rocking on the hips, Adding some dynamic stretch, stretching with motion. Breathe. If you want, close your eyes. One more breath cycle. Pause the motion. Straighten out the right leg, and we're going back into cradle pose. So pick up your left foot with your right hand. Draw that leg close to your body, and if it's accessible, you can take that deeper progression. If that feels like you have to curl your shoulders inward to get there, then just maintain the hand connected to the foot. You pick, wherever you are, add that gentle rocking motion, very small. Breathe. Pause the motion and release that foot down. We're going to go into some more mobility for the hips here. We did some stretching, and now let's add some mobility. We're going to start with a variation of windshield wipers that's a little different than the one we normally do. So separate into a very small V shape, just enough to get your feet away from each other. Recline slightly, and we're going to go into mirror image straight leg windshield wipers. So rock the toes towards each other and away, towards and away. Now start to get going with some tempo here. Getting a little heat generated in the body. And we're not just rotating from the knee down, we're rotating all the way up from the hip joint. Little opposite motion windshield wipers. Pause that motion, sit tall, and we're going to go into a little rowing motion. So a little bending forward and bending backward motion from the hips, a little flexion motion. So start by bending your knees so that you can reach your toes, whatever bend that means for you. Now you can stay here and do the rowing motion, in and out, in and out. So you're pushing the feet in and out. Now if you can, once you've connected to the feet, see if you can straighten those knees out a little bit and do your pushing, your rowing motion with the knees a little bit straighter. If you can come all the way to straight knees, go ahead and start that rowing motion, pushing those feet away and pulling them back in. It's not a very big motion. Just working on hip flexion here, forward and back, forward and back. And again, adding that motion with a little tempo, generating some heat, moving that synovial fluid through those hip joints. One more, and crawl back to sit tall. All right, let's go into our normal version of windshield wipers for some more hip mobility. Planting the feet flat, separating the feet wide, about 12 to 15 inches apart, and bringing your hands behind you, reclining slightly for support. And now we're going to slow these down. These won't be as fast as the windshield wipers that we did with straight legs. And they move together. Both knees move to one side, passing through center and the opposite side. Working on hip mobility, rotation, massage. If you want to go a little deeper, you can. And if you do, you'll find that the hip lifts up and you need to slow it down. So you pick, you'll get a little deeper stretch on the outer thigh if you slow it down and allow those knees to go a little closer to the mat. Let's do one more on each side. And wherever you are, draw the knees over to the right, sit up, and then stack the knees and the feet. Going into our mermaid twist, our counter twist, take your right hand and bring it to the left leg. It could be at the shin, it could be at the hip, letting your left hand support you and look off over your left shoulder. Mermaid twist. Breathe. One more breath cycle. Face front, come back into windshield wipers. So set those feet flat again. If you are going slow, you can continue the slower motion, or if you want to go back to the half motion, you can. And now next time your knees are over to the left, pause to the left, sit upright, Stack your feet and your knees, going into mermaid twist, second side. Take your left hand, bring it across, let it rest either on the right ankle or the right hip, and let your right hand support you on the mat. Look over your right shoulder. One more breath cycle. And spiral back to face front. Extend those legs forward. Then we're going to go into a few more stretches and then one strength pose before we transition to some down dog poses. So we will have some down dog poses today. Open up into a V-sit. This time you can come a little wider. We're not going into those windshield wipers again. We're going to go into a fold. But let's separate those legs, whatever is right for you. And let your hands rest just in front of your body. And we're going to add a little activation of the calf muscles by flexing the feet 4 times. Flex and release. Flex and release. Twice more. Last one. And now the feet are relaxed. And we're going to fold from the hips, maybe crawling the fingertips forward an inch or so. Elbows can rest on the thighs here, drawing shoulders away from the ears. And if you want, you could even come forward a whole palm print. Draw the elbows down. They may be floating above the earth. But wherever you are, that pulls the shoulders away from the ears. You can bow the head, but keep your head reaching towards your screen. We're going to add just a deeper stretch for the backs of the legs here. So think about the natural curves of the back side of your legs. You've got a natural curve at your ankle and a natural curve behind your knee. So you're probably not touching the earth behind your ankle and behind your knee. So we're going to take that space behind the knee and deepen just by adding a little pressure. The motion of my leg is almost imperceptible. I'm going to push down and then release. So let's do that with both knees together 3 times. Push down and release. Push the knees down and release. Last time, push the knees down and release. Walk those hands back towards the body, sitting tall. Pick up the knees from underneath and draw the feet together. Knees are bent in front of your body. Going into bound angle and bound angle fold. Open the knees. Draw the soles of the feet together, getting a stretch through the hips. If you need to keep your feet further away from your body, you can, if that's better for the knee flexion. Or if it's okay, you can draw those feet closer. And then, like your hands are opening a book, place the hands on the outside edges of the feet, and then use that resistance of your arms to sit tall. If you want to add motion here, you can, but keep it slow, lifting up and lowering down. On the lowering down motion, you'll feel the stretch deepen in the inner thigh and groin muscles. Bound angle pose, Baddha Konasana. Breathe. Now pause the motion. We're going to go into our bound angle fold. So ease the chest forward. Maybe cup the toes with your hands so that you can bring your elbows onto those inner calves. Getting a deeper stretch. Folding forward. Feel that stretch. Never go into anything that's painful here. You need to keep more upright, by all means. Listen to your body. Take one more breath cycle. And lift up out of the pose. Bring your hands to the outsides of your knees to close them and give them a hug. Now we're going to go into that strength pose for the hips. We're going to go into garland squat, which is a very, very low squat. So first I'm going to show it with a prop, and then I'm going to show it without the prop. Your prop could be a block or a book. So go ahead and grab something with height. This is only 3 inches, so it doesn't have to be a very big book. It could even be a rolled up towel, a beach towel. Tuck it under your hips, so your hips are higher than your heels, and then separate your feet wide. Hands to prayer position, elbows to the insides of your knees, and splay it open. So just like in bound angle, a little stretch for the inner thighs and groin. This is a non-working squat, so your hips are just getting another stretch if you're in this variation. If you want to do the working squat, which adds some strength as well as stretch, push off of your prop. Hips are very low, lower than your knees. And I'll move this out of the way so you can see it. My hips are floating above the floor. Very low squat. So listen to your body. You might be up here, and that's still okay. It's a good squat. But listen to your body. One more breath cycle. And whether you stayed on your prop or you came off your prop, everyone's going to bring your bottoms to the mat. So hands come down. Hug those knees. And we're going to go into our down dog sequence. So move props out of the way so you can use the whole length of your mat. I'm turning sideways to you, but you can remain forward and back to your screen if that's what you desire. Depends on how easily you can view your screen. Bring your hands to the skinny end of your mat. Spread your hands wide. Curl your toes onto the mat. And then lift your knees up into the upside down letter V. Lift through the armpits. Keep your ears close to your arms. And press your thigh bones into your legs. Going into down dog sway. Start to bend one knee and then the other, like you're prancing, but then turn the hips around. Move those hips around, drawing one knee across the body. Get some motion going on those hips. Some crazy down dog here. Breathe. And then pause that motion. We're going to go into pigeon pose today, a deep stretch for the hip. I'm going to show it regular pigeon, and then I'm going to show it upside down pigeon, so you have the option. Float that left foot off the mat, draw the knee to your nose, and set the knee on the mat. Take your right toenails to the mat and slide the foot back. Your left hip will be up off the mat. Don't let it flop down like this. So keep it up. If you need to tuck a prop underneath it, you can. That's okay, but don't let it flop off to the side. I'm going to show the rest of this version, and then I'll show the variation where you can flip onto your back. If you're going to stay here, go ahead and lower your elbows to the mat. And just take your pigeon pose, surrendering to the depth of the pose that's right for you. Bow your head. I'm going to quickly show the upside down version, which we do very often, called figure 4 stretch, lying on your back. If you want to do that version, it's still that same leg that's bent, and it's the one that we do at the end of a practice lying on our back. So you can come into this version of pigeon if that's better for your knees. I'm coming back into the other version, but listen to your body. If you're in the traditional pigeon pose and you want to enhance this pose, walk both hands over to the left edge of your mat and hover your body over that bent left knee. Bow your head. We're going to hold this for 3 more breath cycles, holding our pigeon pose for a nice long time because we take a lot of tension in the hips. 1 more breath cycle. And then draw those hands back to center if you rotated. If you're on your back, you're going to join us back in downward dog. So let's everybody come into the down dog pose with big stars on the hands, curling the toes to step back and lifting up into your letter V, upside down letter V. Breathe. Bear the weight on your your right foot. And that knee that was just forward, that's the knee that goes up in the air. Draw the knee towards your nose. And it doesn't matter which direction you start, but just start circling the knee out to the side. Pause and go the other way. Pause and draw that foot forward, all the way forward. Keep it towards the left edge of your mat. Now, if you want, you can come into the lower version of this lunge pose by dropping your right knee down. If you need a cushion, go ahead and put a knee pad underneath and then flatten the toenails. If you want to stay in the higher version, we're going into lizard pose, by the way, you can keep that knee up. Bring both hands to the inside of that left foot and start to bend and straighten the elbows. Bow your head. Deep stretch for the hip here. Again, think of that orange ball of energy at your hips. Pause with the elbows bent. We're going to twist into our lizard pose. So keep your right hand on the mat and lift your left hand to the sky. Twisting your lizard pose, deepening that stretch through the hips. One more breath cycle. Bring the hand down. If your knee is lowered, go ahead and lift it back up and step that left foot back, and we're back in down dog. Separate your hands, fingers wide. And we're going to go into that sway again. So bend those knees, sway the hips. Pause. Second side, going into pigeon again. Draw that right knee forward. Set it on the mat. And then take your left toenails, slide them back. And here you can take the option to go into the lying on your back version of pigeon. Go ahead and transition to that if you like, or stay here with me. I'm not going to show it a second time. I'm just going to stay in the traditional pigeon. If you are ready to go into a deeper pigeon, lower those elbows to the mat, bow your head. If you want that prop under your hip, you can tuck your yoga block underneath your hip. You could also tuck a book under your hip. But don't swing that hip down off center. Keep that hip center. If you want the deeper progression of the pose, walk your hands to the right edge of your mat and hover your body over that bent right knee. Bow your head. Imagine that your mat is cement in your driveway and it's very, very hot. And there's an ice cube on the cement and it's melting onto your driveway. Imagine you are the ice cube and melt into your pose. 3 more breath cycles. We are going to meet back together in down dog. So if you've rotated, come back to center. If you're on your back, start your flip over. Lifting your chest, spreading your hands wide, curling the toes onto the mat, lifting your hips up into that upside down letter V. Breathe. Bear the weight on your left foot, float that right leg up. And now tuck that knee into your nose, step it all the way forward. Again, here's the option. You can lower that left knee down and take the toenails to the mat and do your lizard pose with the knee on the mat. Option, you can put a knee pad under the knee, or you can keep the knee high. Bring both hands to the inside of that right foot and start to bend and straighten the elbows. Bow your head, looking at the left toes behind you, or the left knee. Pause with the elbows bent. Breathe. Deep stretch all the way around that right thigh and the right hip. Adding our twist, keeping your left hand on the mat, lift your right hand to the sky, twisting to look towards that bent right knee. Twisted lizard. Breathe. 1 more breath cycle. Bring the hand down. If you have the knee on the mat, go ahead and pick the knee up so you can all come back to down dog. Slide that right foot back to the bottom of your mat. Separate your hands, lift up through the armpits, sending those hips to the sky. And now everyone bend both knees down to the mat, and let's take a child's pose here. Sink your hips back, bow your head. If you want, you could stack your hands into fists and support your forehead off the mat. Or you could bring your hands behind you and draw your forehead all the way down to the mat. We're going to add a couple poses on our belly. Actually, just one pose, but we'll do it twice. And it's a hip opener called half frog, Ardha Bakasana. So if your hands are behind, go ahead and bring them forward. Crawl forward onto your belly, lowering the pelvis onto the mat, pressing the pubic bone into the mat, and bring your arms to the top of your mat, parallel to the skinny end of your mat. Does not matter which arm is on top. Very important, we're going to get a little spinal extension in our half frog, so keep pressing the pubic bone to the mat. Go ahead and slide that left knee off the edge of your mat and flex the foot. So your foot is flexed, and now start to slide that knee up towards your shoulder. Stop whenever you need to. And now look at your arms and bow your head, maybe even rest your forehead on the closest arm. Keep that right hip pointer bone pressed into the mat. One more breath cycle. And now start to slide that left foot back down to the bottom of the mat. Whichever arm is on top, go ahead and swap it just to get a little variation in that position. And we're going to go for the other leg, half frog, second side. Start to ease that right knee off the edge of the mat, flex the foot, and slide that knee up towards your shoulder. Look at your arms and bow your head. Keep that left hip pointer bone pressed into the mat for stability. One more breath cycle. And then we slide that right foot back to the bottom of the mat. And we're going to take another child's pose. Hands beneath your shoulders. Push into the mat. Send your hips back towards your heels. Bow your head. And on this one, we're going to take a rotated child's pose. So walk both hands towards the left edge of your mat and push your hips away. Let your chin or cheek rest against that left shoulder. One more breath cycle. And we're going to swap it. Walk your hands over to the opposite end of your mat, opposite side of your mat, and push your hips in the opposite direction. Let your chin or cheek rest against the right shoulder. One more breath cycle. Come back to center, lift the chest. We are going to transition now to lying on our back poses. So go ahead and set your hips on the mat. Send your feet to one skinny end. Lie down slowly if you want to work those core muscles. And then hug your knees into your body. Add a little sway. Pause the motion and plant the feet flat. We're going to go into a hip stretch here called supine cow face. I'm calling out your right and left. I'm still your mirror image if you were set up to be in the same orientation as me. Cross your right thigh over your left. Pick up your left foot and then reach behind and grab the back of your left thigh or the front of your left shin, drawing those knees closer to your chest and then lowering the shoulders down. You can stay here with both hands, either on the back of the thigh or on the shin, or you can transition so that one hand is on each shin or maybe crawling down to the ankle bone or even all the way to the tops of the feet for a deeper stretch. Relax those shoulders down and then don't look at your screen. Just look up towards the ceiling, maybe even close your eyes. Draw both knees a little closer to your chest to deepen the stretch. Deep stretch here, supine cow face. Take 2 more breath cycles. And then release your hands from your legs. Uncross. Plant your feet flat, and we'll go into a little windshield wiper motion before we go to the other side. Next time your knees are over to the left, go ahead and keep them to the left. And if you want the deeper stretch for the outside of that thigh on the right leg, you can pick up your left foot and place it on the outside of your right thigh, deepening the stretch on the IT band. You don't have to. If you don't want to put the foot on there, you can keep both feet on the mat. You pick. One more breath cycle. If your foot is on the thigh, lower it back to the mat. Inhale the knees back to center. Adjust your low back, and we'll do those poses on the opposite side, starting with your cow face. Cross your left thigh on top of your right. Pick up the right foot. Reach behind, placing both hands behind the right thigh or on the front of the shin for a deeper stretch. And again, if you want to progress it, you can take the hands to opposite shins, ankles, or the tops of the feet, drawing those knees closer to the chest and relaxing the shoulders away from the ears, letting them fall into the mat. Look up at the ceiling, don't look at your screen here. Close your eyes, survey your body, feel that deep stretch on the left hip. Visualize that orange wheel of energy. One more breath cycle. Release your hands from your legs. Uncross your thighs. Plant the feet flat. Feet are wide. And we go back into windshield legs. Massaging the hips. Gaining some more hip mobility. Next time your knees are towards the right, hold them towards the right. And if you want, take that right foot and place it on top of the left thigh for that deeper IT band stretch. And again, that's an option. You can keep the foot on the mat if you like. You pick. One more breath cycle. And if your foot is on top of the thigh, go ahead and plant it. Inhale the knees to center and hug the knees. Add a little sway. Our hour is drawing so quickly to a close. I had just a few more poses, but I think we are just going to go into Happy Baby. I think we're going to skip supported bridge and our supine bound angle. We're going to go into Happy Baby and then relaxation. So pause that rocking motion, keep your knees bent, flex the feet, and allow the soles of the feet to look up at the ceiling. Crawl your hands up to rest on your shins, your ankles, your big toes, or grab the soles of your feet and draw those bent knees closer to your armpits. Relax the shoulders. If you want, add a little sway. Think of that sacral area again, that orange ball of energy. Just 2 more breath cycles here. Pause the motion. Release your hands from your legs. One at a time, bring your feet down to the mat. Let's transition into our relaxation pose. You could stay here with your knees bent. They could rest against each other. Or you could extend your legs long for corpse pose. Wherever you are today, place your hands at that spot about 2 to 3 inches below your navel. Just resting your hands on that area that we focused on today, that whole core area around the hips and the womb and the sacral chakra. And now don't look at your screen anymore. Just look up towards the ceiling, close your eyes, and take 5 breath cycles. Feel the body expand with each inhalation, all the way down to that sacral chakra. Bringing energy with each breath cycle. 1 more. And we're going to return to a seated pose. So you can roll onto your side and push into the earth, or you can do one sit-up to return to a seated pose as we did most of our practice today in a seated pose. My quote today is about flow, because we were talking about water and flow and the motion of the hips being flowing. And it's an anonymous quote. It is written, "Instead of waiting for happiness to flow toward you, let it flow from you." Share your happiness, my friends. Bring your hands outside your hips. Inhale to the sky. Let your thumbs touch your mind, your spirit breath in your body. The spirit in me honors the spirit in all of you. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste. Have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoyed our Sacral Chakra practice, and keep breathing.